don't know why it started this morning, but this morning I've shared with you that for the last while, it occurred to me that there could actually be sacrifices brought on the Temple Mount with this government. And then I don't know why, but this morning it started to occur to me or maybe it was yesterday morning. It really could happen.
What are we sacrificing?
The Corbin pay, because if you do a Google search, I'm going to do it right now. If you do a Google search, you will see that almost every year for the last, who knows how many years, somebody's been arrested for trying to bring a lamb on the Temple Mount to sacrifice it.
Oh, wow.
Let's see, man arrested. Lamb. Even putting these words in is funny.
Ask ChatGPT.
No, I'm gonna do Bing, because Bing that gives me more creative answers with that artificial intelligence, or at least
Bing is weird.
it seems like I know you have a thing against Bing, but they've been using this. They've been using the same AI because it's the same. But anyways, please, can you let me into class? The answer is yes, Estelle. I'll go. I don't know why. Sometimes it tells me there's somebody waiting, and sometimes it does not. But there we go. So I'm now gonna. All right, man arrested. Lamb.
Man.
Temple Mount. That's my search words. Man arrested, lamb, Temple Mount, Passover. I'll put in Passover just for the heck. All right. And what do we get?
Now you're doing this in Bing?
Temple activist detained, lamb seized.
Lamb. I'm surprised they didn't say lamb saved.
Oh my.
All right, so temple activists detain lamb seized. Let's see. But this isn't this year. This is 2013. But this goes on. I'm just saying I every year this is going on, but just Jerusalem police detectives detained right-wing activist Noam Fetterman and others for questioning Monday afternoon and seized a lamb the activists wanted to sacrifice on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem's Old City. Police cited them for transporting an animal without a permit. Fetterman reacted by saying, "We demand to offer the Passover sacrifice. One of the most important commandments. The Jerusalem police are harming freedom of religion." The activists plan to assemble at the promenade near the Jaffa Gate of Jerusalem's Old City at 1:30 p.m. with the goats and lambs they plan to sacrifice. The activists said they know their chances of success are slim and noted that in previous years, police used force to block their way and arrested some of them as well. Charge sheets were also filed against some of them on alleged unauthorized transport of animals and cruelty to animals. Some activists hoped, however, that the police would be more sympathetic to their efforts because the new Knesset and government included temple activists like MK Moshe Feiglin and Minister Uri Ariel in senior positions. The temple organizations noted that hundreds of supporters have signed petitions calling on the government to enable the Pesach sacrifice on the Temple Mount as part of the freedom of religion and worship that the government must allow by law.
Oh, I could just see Peter now.
Just...
We'll just send Peter to the gates.
That's what I was thinking, Liz.
Right. So now, I want to just 1 second. I need to just send this to me. Right. So, assuming I'm suggesting that this goes on every year. It sounded like it was at least not the first time in 2013, right. And I continue to see things like this. So now think of what you have right now. The recipe, I'm suggesting. Let's say you've had these guys trying to do it before. Is there any better time for them to think they can do it than now? Because what's going to happen? Is there going to be chaos in the country? There happens to be chaos in the country right now. And the people that are causing the chaos in the country are these guys. These are the guys. So they are already looking in the face of a hurricane of protest over judicial reform. Many of these guys who are part of the group that would be interested in a Passover offering happening on the Temple Mount are already engaged in behavior that is causing a hurricane of protest. What will happen around the rest of the world? These guys do not care, right? But an argument could be made, if you're going to do it at any point in the last however many years, this is the time to do it, because the Abraham Accords and all sorts of other things have indicated that the broader Arab world does not necessarily have the stomach for whatever reasons, because of Iran and other things, have the stomach to go after Israel, especially if it's not seen, if they do it in a way that's not seen as removing the Muslims from the Temple Mount, because you don't have to do it in a way that removes the Muslims from the Temple Mount.
Right.
So
And everyone wants it for themselves, so they're all fighting over.
Right, but I'm saying it's not like somebody would say there's going to be World War. There might be World War III. If first of all, you've also got Russia fighting Ukraine, so Russia is not going to be interested in helping anybody right now,
except China.
Right, you have everybody with Iran. Somebody could argue this is a sweet moment to get this done. If you're going to do it, just have some guy do it. Everybody can blame the guy afterwards and say this wasn't us, right? This was just a guy. Also, by the way, they have started doing prayer on the Temple Mount. They have Jews that go up and do prayer on the Temple Mount. They didn't used to be able to. You used to, if you moved your lips on the Temple Mount, you were escorted off the Temple Mount by the soldiers. But now they actually have people going up and davening mincha. They had people blowing shofar on the Temple Mount before. So they've sort of organized off that thing. They've got these guys. You've got already pandemonium. So what worse is going to happen if you did? In fact, it actually weirdly could stop. It weirdly could stop everybody for a minute and go, what just happened?
Don't you think this would unite some of the people with the people who aren't protesting now? Will join those people. I mean, there could be bloodshed, not just of the lamb, but of the Jews on the Temple Mount. No, the opposite. The opposite. There's not that many people who cares if you do Korban Pesach on the Temple Mount. Who cares? I think a lot of people will.
Who cares? Why do they care?
Well, secular Jews would like.
They're not gonna protest against it. They're not gonna protest it more than they're protesting against this.
I don't.
What are they gonna? If anything, they're gonna think this was extremely weird. They're not even prepared to protest it against it.
Telling you to get PETA in there.
Right. Not only extremely weird.
Whatever. If PETA does it, I'm saying if PETA protests against it, that's a guarantee that you're not going to get hundreds of thousands of people protesting. You already have hundreds of thousands of people protesting against them. There is no more people. What more people are there? There's not more people. They've got everybody out there. And why is this something they would consider it strange? They might even consider it dangerous.
Cruel.
They might, but why? They've already had settlers going in and shooting up Palestinian villages. That is legitimately ridiculous and horrific.
Yes.
Right? This is not going to be worse. Slaughtering a Korban Pesach, I can't, maybe you're right. I just don't
Maybe.
Why would it be? Why would it be worse in somebody's eyes than settlers going in and shooting people in an Arab village? I mean, I am saying outright is absolutely horrific and ridiculous, sickening behavior, sickening. But I'm saying to me, if you did that, right? So let's say somebody's going to say this is dangerous. Yes, it is. Is it reckless? Yes, it is.
Yes.
But these guys are already involved in dangers and reckless. What are you gonna? We already know these guys are dangerous and reckless. So weirdly, I'm not advocating for it. I'm just saying weirdly, this could be the moment. Now, let's say it is. Are we prepared? Are we, you and I, prepared for what that means? The consequences of it, because it's complex.
What
It's
are the
complex.
consequences?
Right. What are the consequences?
Consequences.
Right.
They're going
If
to have
we-
a good Pesach.
No, the consequences are that once they start doing korbanos on the Temple Mount, they're not going to stop with Korban Pesach. I'm assuming this would be the opening to regular korbanos, like the Tamid offering on the Temple Mount. And I also, by the way, there are 4. I'm just laying out a scenario for you. I don't know what the percentages are, but they're not nothing. Their percentages are a lot better that this is going to happen than winning the lottery. Did anybody buy a lottery ticket here in the last few years? If any of us have bought a lottery ticket in the last few years, I am suggesting that the odds of this happening are way, way higher than winning the lottery because of those factors I mentioned. And it could mean, I'm also suggesting, once the Korban Pesach happens, it could mean that a regimen of regular korbanos starts to happen on top of the Temple Mount, and which means that issues of the imminence of messianic time begin not just to be a theoretical discussion, but in many people's minds, they've been a real discussion since forever, but in many people's minds, the founding of the state of Israel was itself already a kind of real expression of messianic times. There are people who have been living like that since 1948. That they've already had that. I am suggesting that this causes us to have to deal with something that many people, speak about in theory, but could really change the kind of trajectory of religious life in the land of Israel and around the world. If we start to have regular korbanos on the Temple Mount, that I believe is the kind of change that causes all of us to ask ourselves what our connection is to the Messianic times, what our connection is to the land of Israel, to the building of a Beis Hamikdash, to a realization of something that was spoken of in dreams. Again, there are people who could argue that this has already, how is this much different than the state of Israel? Now, there might be some people who feel that this pales in comparison to the state of Israel. Mm-hmm. The realization of a Jewish state has already caused us to have to confront these issues. And we've absorbed that. It's become part of our lives. We already have absorbed that and live like that. To me, it seems like this takes it to a next level, a kind of next level. And it could happen. Like if you think about, like typically when you have scenarios where you're thinking about, you have a kind of dream about what you might think of as a salvation. Let's say you were a Soviet citizen, an oppressed Soviet citizen in the Soviet Union, and you're thinking about a time when there is no more Soviet Union. So it's like a faraway dream. And when it finally happens, I'm sure for them, just like it was for a lot of us who were watching it from the outside, it seemed unreal and also not the way we pictured it happening. It's just not the way you pictured it happening. It's just when people imagine a messianic time, a shift to what we call the messianic era, I think people have a kind of glowing kind of picture of what it might have, of what might be, and a kind of mundane expression of it, where it sort of happens with regular people who are not necessarily on our list of the greatest gift to humanity, like possibly. They're just, a bunch of regular people who just decided they're going to go ahead and do something like this, and then it happens. And that somehow that could be part of a chain reaction that leads to what eventually becomes the messianic dream. Is that a possibility? Imagine you were before the fall of the Soviet Union, or you're before the end of World War II. You're before something that you just, every fiber of your being needs it to change, needs something to end, needs something to transform. But you don't believe it could have. There's a big part of you that doesn't believe it could ever happen. There's a big part of you that just believes that things are just going to go on the way they are, right? So let's say you're before those times, and now there's a little something, and you're just watching this little something. You're just watching a little something moving, right? And then this little something, and suddenly there's a crack, and the crack gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and just big chunks start to fall. And then, and then suddenly the whole thing just fell down. And those people that were pulling down the statues, when they're knocking down the Berlin, the wall, and they're pulling down the statues, and they can't believe nobody's stopping them, and they don't even know what to do. They don't even know what to do because it's just so weird. And at the end of the war, or at the end of World War II, we were in a miniature version of that with the Gulf War. And I remember, like, you just can't believe it's going to be over. And then one day it's over. It was so tiny compared to World War II. I'm just saying, you have these kind of experiences, you're in it, and you just can't believe it's going to be over. And then something could happen, and then boom, something happened, and it's over. And maybe you don't prepare for something like that. I don't know. Maybe you don't. Maybe you just can't.
You just kind of watch.
Right. And then it just sort of happens, and maybe there really isn't a way to prepare for it. Although you do see some people, like Israel, when it was preparing for the state of Israel, they already formed a government, a shadow government. There were things that they did. They prepared an army before there was a state so that they could defend themselves. There were people, there were forward-thinking people that had set things in place so that when the transition to the state of Israel happened, there was even a shred of possibility of defending it and nurturing the embers of what were the beginning of it. I don't know, there are people doing that with the Beis Hamikdash. Yeah, we look at it as a kind of like a theoretical something that's so far in the distance, and would it even be good if it happened? We're not even sure. Is it going to be better than what our lives are now? All this kind of stuff's going on. That's what I'm saying is the complexity of it. But we study about it. We're in the midst of studying about it, who does the service in the Beis Hamikdash and all these kinds of things. And we look at it from a distance. And I'm just saying, there is a possibility. And a betting, this is something that somebody could even bet on. It wouldn't be a black swan kind of event if this thing happened, because you could see that it's possible.
Yep.
This thing, it's on the radar. It's on the radar of something that could happen. I guarantee you the police are paying attention to this. Somebody's concerned about this one way or the other. I don't know if they're paying attention to support it or paying attention to thwart it. I would imagine they're paying attention to thwart it, but I don't know. It's hard to tell, what could be happening, which direction it would go in.
Rabbi, can
Yeah.
I ask you a question about it? Where you have the people who you were talking about, that in their hearts, in their beings, like you said about the Soviet Union, they will see this, something will change, will say, wow, could this be? But what would you say about the majority of the Jews in the world reacting to this, if this happens?
I would
Who
say
don't even connect it. They don't even know that there should be a Korban. Do you know what I mean? They don't even.
the vast majority of Jews originally I would assume would be apathetic. They're not
You don't
gonna
think
be-
they'll say, whoa, they
No.
won't be like the other side, like the Hellenists during, the Zealots and the Hellenists during Hanukkah.
No, I think it would be wishful thinking that there would be that many people that would be against it. There's so few Jews that care about anything that happens with Judaism.
That's true.
It's such
That's
a,
true.
I mean,
That's
I wish there would be people that had that strong a feeling about it. I don't see it that it would be. And also, I would say that the people that are bringing these lambs or goats on top of that are trying to get it on top of the Temple Mount, they don't represent what you would call the Haredi world. They are not from the Haredi world. They're from the religious Zionist world. But if they got the support of the Haredi world, then it won't matter what anybody thinks, because you're gonna, if they got the support, let's say, of all the Hasidic rebbes that are in Israel and the yeshivas, that means that you could have 1 million people that would move in support of this. Then you're not gonna have millions of people that are against it. Of the people that would be against it, I'm sure you'll have some full-throated protesters and stuff like that, but it's not gonna be, again, I'm not certain how the Haredi world's response to it would be, because it's a thorny halachic question. By now, a lot of the halachic issues have been thought through. There are a lot of scholarly papers and responsa and things like that have been written about it over the years. So there's definitely a good argument to be made that you could do it halachically, because there's a lot of hurdles. There's a lot of halachic hurdles in order to have it done. But there are a lot of arguments. It's not simple, and these guys have been practicing and working on those articles, especially something called the Temple Institute. They've been working on it now for many years. They've been practicing to do the Korban Pesach. They've been practicing it for years. They've been doing the study about how to do it. In other words, where it could be done and how to get it done. All this kind of stuff. And there's been learned responsa. Again, the Temple Institute is not a Haredi institution. it is also an institution that has scholars that are sort of what you would call on the fringe. But these scholars who are sort of on the fringe, their scholarship is, and their conversations are with the great halachic leadership in the Haredi world. So
Wouldn't
it
it be more sensible to be working on getting leaders together rather than this? In other words, the Jews are so split, you'd need a Sanhedrin. Wouldn't that be the thing you do
so
first?
there was even that. There was
Yeah.
even, there is technically a group of people called the Sanhedrin. There was Adin Steinsaltz, by the way, he was part of that group. I don't know if it still exists, but while Adin Steinsaltz was alive, he was part of a Sanhedrin. They had formed as a Sanhedrin. And again, these were not Haredi leaders, but they were, many of them, major Talmidei Chachamim. Rabbi Yoel Schwartz, who was my mashgiach in Itri and the one who gave me my smicha test, he was on it. There were several people on it that were major Talmidei Chachamim, but they did not represent Haredi leadership. So they had started a Sanhedrin. Their idea was just start one, because if you try to start it from the top up, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. But if you just start one and it gets momentum, you never know. It could develop into what it needs to be. So even that happened. But again, you could. That's what I'm saying. Does something happen? Does everything happen in the kind of planned way that makes most sense, or sometimes do things just happen? And there's a it's a Haftorah. Not when the Haftorah is, when we do the Haftorah, but it's from Yeshayahu, from Isaiah, and towards the end of that chapter in Isaiah, it says, Be'ito achishena. So it will come in its time, or it will be sort of rushed. So which is it? Will it come in its time, or it'll be rushed? So there's like two models for how this is how it's described, that salvation can come in sort of two ways. It can come in a planned, orderly way, or it can come in a kind of rushed way. Now, even rushed, though, we think of like Yetzias Mitzrayim, going out of Egypt, as rushed. It was a rushed way. It was earlier, perhaps, than it was supposed to be. There's people who suggest that we couldn't have lasted much longer, and exile had to be sort of rushed at the time that it was. And originally it was supposed to be 400 years. It was only 210 years and so that is how we tend to think of rushed, still managed by God, talking to somebody like Moshe with elders, and there's still order to some degree coming from the top down. But who knows, maybe there's another kind of rushed, or that indicates a kind of grassroots something that happened of its own. Is it let's put it this way. Is there anything that says it couldn't happen this way? I don't think so. I'm not saying it for sure would. I'm just saying I think a reasonable person would say there's a chance it could happen.
Yeah.
A reasonable person would say there's a chance it could happen. This is a potential scenario. And if we're but there's another thing also, which is that we get so, when you're in a movement of history, when you're in the movement of history, it really does feel like it will last forever, but they don't. They don't last forever, whatever they are, wherever they are. The Roman Empire, the Persian Empire, they don't last forever. At some point.
Because as the people change, the ideas change with them.
Right, but also it's not necessarily, I got historians who are looking back hundreds or thousands of years afterwards, when you're looking back at a big picture, it's sort of like maybe a pointillist painting. When you look back, it just all looks like it has form, and things happen, for reasons and because of decisions that people made and choices, and even the sort of breaking down of something that happened, you can show the causes and the causes of those causes, and that's the belief and stuff. But when we experience these in our sort of minor way, they don't look like that. They don't tend to look like that. Things just sort of like, one day I woke up married, like at least that was planned,
Yeah, I hope
etc.
so.
And that seemed to have form and etc. And it was a transition. And then there could be somebody else who they lost their job. There was no preparation. There was no something. There
Right.
is no, and it just happened sort of suddenly. And then their thing didn't happen like that. There's some things that happen kind of planned, and there's other things that don't happen like that.
Right.
And so what is, and I guess part of what I'm asking is about us being prepared, also prepared for the end of what we're in. Sometimes when you're in something, you don't even realize you're in something. We don't even realize we're in something. It's just life.
Right.
But if we look around, is it possible that there's an end to the kind of order that we're in, and that there's going to be some kind of different order, and that different order organizes our life in many, many different ways.
Not all good.
Not all good, and also not all bad. So yeah.
I don't know, Rabbi, if you're doing that Pesach Doraisa, what will happen to rabbinic Judaism? Well,
I'm saying, I agree.
Whoa.
I agree. Rabbinic authority, how things have been done. We have gotten used to things getting done this way. Decision making, the organization of religious society, the and culture. What does it mean to be? Let's say you have a person who wants to be a Jew in good standing, to the best that they can be. Where do they look for order? Where do they look for definition? There's people who found theirs, and then that would be challenged. And whose authority when something like that happens? How does authority happen? This
We wait for a prophet.
I'm saying you could that might be, or everything falls apart first. That's also possible. Or part of it is also, somebody could argue that we've been in what somebody looking from a distance would call a dysfunctional state. We don't have a Sanhedrin. We don't have the Beit HaMikdash. These are major institutions of Jewish life,
Right.
that are missing, and somehow we're good with that. We're not great, but we're good, and we're nervous about it changing.
We're dealing with it.
Right, and we're sort of nervous about it changing. We don't. Even if somebody looks back and goes, "That's pretty dysfunctional," you didn't have the Beis HaMikdash. Half of Tanakh is about the Beis HaMikdash. You don't have a Beis HaMikdash. You don't have the Sanhedrin. You can't make new law. You can't make legislation. You can't challenge old law. You can't challenge old legislation. You can't do that. You've been sort of living off of the embers of what was originally the fire of Torah. And you don't have prophets. Just like there's no prophets. But somehow we're totally cool with everything that's going on.
Why are we totally cool?
All right, well, so we're cool enough that we don't want it to change. We're like, are you kidding me? These guys are going to go up there and do that. And what if this led to this and that and this? And are they crazy? And whatever, like why? Like, they're going to upset.
Step two.
They're going to upset this system, and crazy stuff's
Right.
going to happen, and it's going to, and
The
everything's
rockets
going to
are
fall
already
apart.
flying.
Yeah. And all this stuff's going to fall apart. And then you're like wondering, what exactly are they going to upset? What is going to be, they mess with the order of what exactly? We have just been so used to this that that to us, this is something we don't want to mess with. Why? We don't want to mess with it. When, if you look at what was the original design, there's hardly anything of the original design left.
True.
Plus, you can't say that what we have is better than the original design. I mean, you might be able to point to details.
Yeah.
You might be able to point to details, but
Little
overall, if you're talking about the continuity of the Jewish people, or where it's going, let's say where it's going to be 100 years from now, you can't say that we have some kind of better system.
No, we're in
I
trouble.
don't think.
I think we're in trouble.
Right. Somebody could argue that there are some serious points of concern, for it. So should we say like that somebody who's going to mess with this and overturn this in some way, shake things up, is necessarily doing something wrong? I don't know. What am I so interested in protecting? What apple cart do I not want to be shaken up? Do I not want to be upset? It's like, so that, I mean, those are just some of the thoughts. I'm not, again, if somebody asked me, if somebody came to me and goes, do you want to be in on it? We're bringing a goat onto the Temple Mount. I would have to really think about it. There's a part of me that hopes I would say yes. I don't know what I would say. There's a part of me that hopes I would say yes. And then there's a part of me that is, are you an idiot? Are you absolutely crazy? Do you know what this could lead to? And all this, the anarchy and all this other kind of stuff that could happen. And I'm not even sure where to get guidance on it.
Isn't it?
Right. I mean, I do have what I believe are rabbinic mentors and wise people. And I guess if it came up, I assume I would consult with them. But in a way, I'm not sure. There's one of these things, which is also that kind of Nachshon thing, or Pinchas kind of thing, where there's Nachshon or Pinchas things. These are your let's say you got in a situation, it may not even be the right thing to ask, I don't know. But it brings up these thoughts. I like the thoughts that it brings up. I like the fact that it brought it up real. So starting like yesterday, I'm saying it became real for me. Real thoughts, real thinking of consequence and stuff that's
There
sort
would
of
be consequence.
right. It's terrifying and exciting kind of thinking at the same time. And I'm just saying,
Personally,
it's a
I
possibility.
would want to be far away from it. I don't think I could deal with it.
Well, just so happens I'm going to Israel for Pesach, so
Are
I'm going to
you?
hang around.
Are you?
I am going to Israel for Pesach, and
Are you
Erev Pesach.
kidding?
No, and Erev Pesach. Tzipi and I are going for Pesach, and I am planning on just hanging out Erev Pesach around the coast, and I'm going to look around. I'm not kidding. I am going to look around just a little bit on Erev Pesach, just in case. But
That's when it would be done. It would be done right before. When would they do it?
No,
If
they would do it Erev Pesach. They would do it
Day
a
before.
little after noon. It would be like after Mincha Gedolah, because they do it actually, because it's a weekday, they would do it even a little bit later.
Mm.
So it's early afternoon on Erev Pesach. If I hear somebody go psst, I have to make sure I'm paying attention for a psst. You want to come? We're going.
Well, I hope
That's to
some,
hear.
some miracle accompanies it. I hope if it does happen, be great.
Yeah, I just also I just like like I'm saying the fact that it's possible to think about these things. I just really don't think there's been a time when you could really think about this in this way in a long
Yeah,
time.
it's a thought that hasn't really gone through my head that much.
Right, because when I read about those guys doing it in previous times, it never felt like, it felt like if somebody, like, let's say there's somebody lighting a match near gunpowder, it didn't feel like these guys are lighting a match near gunpowder. The guys who are trying to bring it on the Temple Mount, this guy's Fetterman or whatever, so unlikely in such a, but now,
Yeah, now with the access to the
especially
Temple
with
Mount is-
chaos, I really do feel like the chaos that has been caused by the same people that would be the ones who would support this. They are there just causing this particular chaos.
Okay, Lois,
Yes,
let's look for a headline saying Rabbi Karsh of TLC has been arrested at the Temple Mount.
well, I mean, he's right about this. There's so much chaos and talk about we have to tear everything down right now, even
Yeah.
here, of course. That's why
Yeah.
we got the orange one.
What about France? France has got their thing going on right now.
That's
It was
right.
It's sort of ironic because he was rebuking Netanyahu, and then this is not the first time he's gotten himself into this kind of thing, but there are actual fires going on.
Yep.
Well,
And you have the I think I don't know, the Russian thing, and you have the chaos and the Turkey, and like in the Middle East, you have some players that may not just jump right in to
I
respond.
wonder what your pastors would think of it.
Sure, they
and-
like any chaos would like. I'm sure that kind of chaos.
And there was a tornado in California. So who knows?
Yes, now
Yes.
there's your real indicator.
Uh-huh.
There was a tornado in California.
Okay.
Right. Anyways, I'm just saying, there's nothing like a little excitement.
I'm in, except for the killing of the animal. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm
I
sorry.
just want to say, Lois, are
Yes.
you a vegan? Did you become a vegan?
Okay, stop it. Jeez.
Just saying, that animal's going to be eaten.
I can't, we were talking sacrifices the other day. weren't
He's
we?
going to be eaten. The lamb is going to be eaten.
Okay, yes, but we're
So
killing
I'm
it
saying you're not a
God.
vegan.
to be close to God, killing it. That's what gets me. Okay. God needs
Are
the
you?
blood.
I just
Yep.
cannot imagine this animal is going to be eaten. Why shouldn't the killing of the animal be connected to a ritual?
See, that makes sense.
You're going to eat it anyways. If you're talking about the Tamid,
Yeah,
then
yeah.
the next one you could say it. But the Korban Pesach, I don't see how I think you have to examine your feelings about the Korban Pesach. 'Cause
Okay,
that-
I will. I will.
And I'm sure every part of it is going to be used, like the
Let's
Native
discuss it at the
Americans,
Seder.
like the Native Americans who, according to every social studies book I had as a young child. Used every part of the buffalo. Did not waste a piece of it. Until you read the actual stories of what happened with the buffalo huts. But that's what we were told. And I'm sure the Korban Pesach is the same.
True environmentalists, they are actually, aren't they? They really
What?
are. The Indians, true environmentalists.
Were.
Yeah.
They were stewards of the land. You didn't
Yes.
own it. You lived
Right.
on it.
Right. Well, I'll tell you, if it happens in Israel on that Wednesday before our Seders, and we hear about it, that'll be really some Seder then.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Will be exciting. You have to believe. I wish I knew somebody in the Israeli police, because I actually did. I knew somebody who knew somebody in the Israeli police, but I don't think I do anymore. Just to see if they actually are on alert. Especially, I don't know who's in charge of that. That might be the border police. Which is really not the same thing as the regular police. The ones who are on top of it, I have a feeling that they would be on extra alert.
I
for
also have
something
a
like
feeling
this.
that if they're on extra alert, you'd have IDF, you'd have everybody there.
You might, but also I could see Dan Brown wanting to. This could be a real, because you could have in a Dan Brown version of what would happen, you'd have people in the police that are secretly trying to facilitate this to happen.
Yes.
But they're part of a secret group. But now somebody's starting to hear about them and trying to infiltrate them so that they can stop them. But you've got these guys who are still part of the police, and they go all the way up to the top.
We can make a whole mystery story out of this and sell it to Netflix.
I have been prepared for this moment by all of my reading for years and years. All of my mystery spy novels, even Agatha Christie has prepared me for this moment.
Okay.
Okay, we have to just put to Netflix or one of them.
All we have to do is tell what I just said to that chat GPT and tell it to write up the screenplay. There's enough details here, for sure be able to write the screenplay just with what we've talked about.
Exactly.
How much more coaching could an artificial intelligence need?
Rabbi, I think you're letting your imagination run away with you.
That's exactly how movies are made. Estelle. That's exactly how they're made.
Anyway, I have to leave now, so
All right.
for an
I will see you
interesting
next week.
discussion.
We're good for next week. By the way, this was connected to our discussion, which was about the temple service. I don't want you to think it wasn't connected.
That's true.
It was very connected
For
and
sure.
inspired by it. So I think we're
week
good
or
next
it's
week.
the
Yeah.
20th?
Oh no, we're not good.
When do you
Oh,
leave?
For next
We would have
Thursday.
been good. We would have been good, but I'm going to be in. You know what? We'll be good, but it'll be on Zoom. We'll do it, but we'll be on Zoom because I'm going to be in St. Louis. I'm going to be with my mother, but we'll do it. We'll be
that
good.
only affects me. It doesn't
Right.
affect
Yeah.
anybody
So we'll say we're
Okay.
on at 10.
so when do you actually leave? When do you
Monday,
actually-
the Monday before Pesach, which I think is the 3rd.
Yes. it is.
Bezrat Hashem.
Yeah.
Well,
Unless I'm held
Wednesday,
back
come back.
because somebody heard this conversation and
Yeah.
the Israeli government tried to hold back.
well, I'm going to London for my grandson's bar mitzvah.
Oh, Mazel Tov.
On the
When's it
15th
happening?
of April, the Shabbos after Pesach. But
Mazel.
I'm leaving, I'm here for the first two Seders and leaving
Oh,
on the 9th of April.
Beautiful.
Oh, Easter
so-
Sunday.
Nice, Estelle. Very good.
Very nice.
So
Nice. It should get a lot of nachas and travel safely.
thank you, and you too, but we'll see you next week still.
Yes. Yeah.
Good. Okay.
When do
Okay.
for
Have a
Israel?
good Shabbos, everybody.
Good
Monday.
Shabbos, Estelle. Good Shabbos.
Be well. Be well. When's your next trip? Don't you usually go around?